Welcome back to the third video on the Eureka tool. On this video, you can see we're set up and we're going to cut the back relief on the cutter blank that we've got there. And by the end of the video, we'll have a completed cutter. But first, let's go ahead up to the office and finish putting the Eureka tool together, and I'll show you how to time the clicks and get it ready to start doing this work. Okay, this is the completed Eureka tool. Now, when you first make it, you make your clicks a little bit longer than necessary because you need to time those clicks. There's the second one right there, okay? So, as you turn, see the click up here is pushing this forward. Now it goes back, it locks itself in again. Now it's going to push it forward. And that's the bottom click, locking it into position. So once you hear that one, then it starts on its backward movement again. There's locked into position. It pushes forward. You hear the bottom one click in there. So the length of this one and making sure that this one locks in there correctly. And it's just simply a process of taking it apart and sanding or filing the edges very small amounts until you get it right. But you can, when you see it moving forward like that, when it gets to the end, the bottom click should be clicking. As soon as it clicks, then it's ready to come back again. And it's just back and forth until you get those timed out correctly. Then I found too that it seemed to be working, but it still had intermittent problems. So I took a Sharpie and I marked the top of the slot where it didn't quite click into position. And then I ran it a few times and said, sure enough, it is. It's that one slot. And so then I just took a file and just cleaned it up a little bit. It wasn't that it was the wrong place or anything. It just needed cleaning up. It was a little rougher than the other ones, and it was having a hard time sliding in. So that worked out really well for me. And then I had it running for about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. Everything seemed to be going good. I had it on the lathe and it was working fine. And then all of a sudden I had it stopped working. It stopped clicking and it just stayed in one position. And what that was the spring tension. So you have to be really careful. This is the one that got me the most. I had to get more spring tension back here. This one here is pretty easy to adjust. So the black marker helped adjusting the spring tension. And you can tell if it's a spring tension, just put your finger up there. And all of a sudden if it works, you got to add more tension to your spring. Now another problem that I had is once I finally got them all to size, I took it all apart to case harden the clicks, and when I came back I put it all together and it didn't work. I mean, it was way out. I couldn't figure out. I'm going, what happened here? This ratchet plate here, if you put it on backwards, in other words, if you screw this part in on the back side here, it'll all go together and it looks like it's right, but it isn't, and it won't work. And I'll tell you what, I scratched my head for about an hour trying to figure out what could have possibly gone wrong while I was up eating lunch. I just put it together wrong. So be aware of how you put this ratchet plate. Make sure you've got it on the right side, and that'll make things a lot easier for you too. Then of course, as soon as you got them, you case harden the clicks. I used the cherry red the same way I did in the last video, just heating them up to red hot, and it's the tip that you want to get. And that worked out really well for me. I found that these screw plate, this one here and this one here that holds the click, both of these, I needed Loctite on them. So I put that kind of Loctite that allows you to remove screws, but it holds the screws in tight, and I've had no more problems with that. And then again, once you put it all back together again, make sure you put your grease in there, whatever grease you kind of like. I used a synthetic grease that I've got around and just to keep it lubricated. And let's see, your washers here. See that I've built a couple of a washer in here. It's really in there tight, but that is a washer. And so I made a couple of washers for different size cutters that I'm going to be putting in there. And you want to make sure that this here nut tightens up tight, but everything still rotates well. Okay, and you'll see that I put slots in here so that I can, whoops, wrong, yeah, that's right, wrench. So that when I put my cutter blank in there, cutter blank just tightens up right in there. And now I can put a wrench on this and tighten it all up so that we're ready to go. Now it's time to go down and we'll make a blank like this. We'll start off by cutting off an 1¼ inch piece of water hardening tool steel on the bandsaw. Here's the blank we just cut off of that piece, and we're over at the lathe now. And this is a spider that I've made. It's got two sides. This side here, when it's up, you got more room in there. But with those bolts in there, when you turn it around, it's made especially for doing these buttons, cutter blanks. I got that from Tom Lipton on Ox Tool. If you've never seen his videos, he's just great. He's got all kinds of stuff. He's been doing this forever. Okay, so now we just face off this button on both sides and get it cleaned up. Okay, use a center drill here to get started with our drilling procedure. Now we're just drilling out to a little bit under a 1/2 inch. And now we'll just rim out the hole to the 1/2 inch that we need to fit it onto the Eureka tool. This next step, using the surface grinder to get it down to size, that's definitely an optional thing. I just happen to have a surface grinder, and it's easy to bring my blanks down to what I want them. But definitely you don't have to do something like this. Okay, now we're using the button tool to cut the form on the gear blank. This is the hardest part, this plunge cut in here with this form tool. And I'm going to make a video just on the button tools that I used and the different approaches to do this. This was really difficult for me on my small lathe. Now I've got the cutter blank over on the rotary table on the mill, and just using a center drill, and I'll drill 12 holes in here because this is going to have a 12 teeth. And now these are the 12 holes that are drilled in here, once again on the rotary table on the mill. Okay, I've got a center in there into my rotary table so that I can find the center of the rotary table, because we're going to put our cutting, there we go, we want to put the cutting edge of that slitting saw right at the bottom of the center, the bottom of the slitting saw on the center, because that's where we're going to make our cutting edge onto our cutters. Okay, here's a good look at the rotary table and the slitting saw setup, and we're moving in now to cut the cutting edge, what is going to be the cutting edge on our gear cutter. Plenty of oil. Through to the center. Back it out, rotate to the next position, and we'll do the same thing all over again and we'll do all 12 teeth like. Okay, we just brought the slitting saw down, and now we're cutting the back half off. I've noticed I've made it just a little bit proud, and it makes it easier for me to spot the cutting edge. Sometimes it's hard for me to quickly figure out which edges is cutting edge. So I just left it a little bit proud. When I'm sharpening, I will sharpen that off of there. And now we'll just go around and do all 12. I take it off to the lathe. I do want to get some Dicom on it so that we can get a clear look at how the cuts are going when we're using the Eureka tool. So just get it all Dicomed up here nice and blue so we can see everything. Alright, so let's set up for the Eureka tool. And somebody asked me about my cross slide dial indicator and how it's put on there, but this is a dovetail, and I made this. Basically, this is for the taper attachment that I've made, but it slides on there like that, and then the bellows go on it like that, and then I've got a little piece of cork board I put in there, and then a cheap dial indicator because it gets kind of oily here, and then on the sides here there's adjusting set screws. There's one on either side for when you're using it for the taper attachment, but that holds it in there, and that's the dial indicator for the cross slide. Then we got our centers in, got our faceplate on, we got it in back gears. Got the belt loose so that it will slip if anything jams up. And now we want to tighten to make sure that the gibs are tightened on both the cross slide and the compound. And we'll go ahead and put in our button tool. This is a button tool. This is what's going to cut the profile on our cutter edge. The next video I put out will be a video on the trials and tribulations of building and working with the button tool. And it goes in the post like that. We'll turn it to the side, get my height gauge, and there we go. It's at the right height. And I use a set of adjustable parallels. I'll bring it in like that. And now we're perpendicular to the ways. And on our button tool, we've got to have this little dowel here. This will connect the button tool to the Eureka tool so that they work together. So okay, and this is the Eureka tool, and it goes between the centers. Lock down our tailstock. And then our dowel has to fit inside here. Whoops. Okay. Okay, we line that all up. Now we just lock down our cross slides. Okay, let me go get some oil and we'll go ahead and start cutting this. Get you in a better angle to see the gear cutter being cut. Okay, So now we have to time it so that the open gap stops here. So we'll shut it off. The click is on its way back. So we know that that's supposed to be about like that. All right. Okay, so now we got it timed and we're just about ready to start. I'll go get some oil and stuff and get ready. So we started our cut, but every time you move your cutter you have to count to 12 to make sure it's made a complete revolution. So I'm getting ready to move it in a little bit more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Moving in a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I'm going to start counting to myself. Okay, so it's ready now. You can see that these little tops need to come off, and we'll put a different bit in for that. And I went back to my quick change tool post, made a little bit of an adjustment there so that the peg could be on it. So that's what we're going to use to cut. So here we are again. You bring your cutter in a little bit. Count 12 revolutions, move it in a little bit more, lots of oil, and it gets rid of those tops for you. Well, there's a look at the cuts. A little bit of oil, a little bit of messy. I'll clean it with a wire brush and some. There's a little lacquer thinners, and we'll clean this thing up a little bit here. Cleans up really quick. I had already taken a wire brush to get some of the cuts off. There you go. Well, whoops. I gotta get it in the camera. Hold on. There you go. There's a good look at it. Okay. We're in AutoCAD now. I wanted to show you how I'm going to sharpen the cutting edges. This is the cutting edge right here. It was formed with a slitting saw. So each one of these is the cutting edge. And now we want to think of this slitting saw not as a slitting saw, but as a sharpening stone. And I'm going to put it on the exact same axis, which is the center line of the gear, and lock it there. If you look over here, you see I've dropped the cutting edge down into the cutter to sharpen the edge. That's not what we want to do. This is a rotational cutter. So we want to bring I'm going to rotate on the rotary table up into the cutter. The cutter will be right on the center line until I hear it engage. And I'll just engage it just enough where I'll be doing it all by how well I hear. And then I will back out, look at it, see that it's polished, and if that's correct, then I rotate it to the next station and then bring it back in again, and I'll sharpen the next edge. And I'll sharpen all 12 of the edges, and then we'll take it over to the hardening area and harden it all up. Okay, now we got it on the rotary table. We'll bring it down till it's right on the edge. There it is. And that will be where we'll keep it to grind the cutting edge of the gear cutter. Bringing the stone in, And now I've got it into the slot. It's right on the center line. So now I use the table and I'm rotating up just a little bit so I can hear it touch. And there we go, a nice flat surface. So now we'll go to the next position. And without changing the stone at all, we just bring the cutter into it and we slowly sharpen that next tooth. And I've got the depth in on my DRO, so I know exactly how deep to go when I reach it. And back it back out again. And another sharpened one, and we rotate to the next one. And I do that for all 12 of the teeth, and that's how it got sharpened. Okay, there's the cutter all. It's in boric acid. I mix the boric acid with alcohol to about the consistency of toothpaste, and cover it up. I'm using MAP gas right now. I'm doing this all in real time just to show you how long it takes for it to do it with the MAP gas. It goes quite quickly. Starting to turn cherry now. Alright, that's looking pretty good, but I got to go off camera with this. I don't want to drop it. Hold on, I'll be right back. Just, there you go. There, it's in the water. Yeah, there we go. And you can see it's get the file here, and you can see, and the file's just, yeah, just sliding all over it. It's good and hard. Alright. I've never tried this before. But I didn't want to use a torch because I have had problems in the past getting to straw with this stuff and not going too far. So I can see what's going on with this plate. You'll see I got a screw in there. That screw is just to keep the gear cutter from sliding off of there. It's been hardened and it's very, very slick now. I'm using an alcohol lamp here. I know there's other ways to do this and stuff, but I'm just staying with the ways that I know. I've done this before with other things, and I can usually see what's going on pretty well. And you can't see it, but I have my magnifying loupe up here too. Now I use the boric acid. And you'll notice that I didn't put it in a wire cage, and that seems to be the way that most people do this. I used to use a wire cage, and then I got one, and I didn't get one of the arms hardened correctly. You can't really see the tips of the cutter when you got it in a wire basket, and I thought I had it red, and it just didn't quite work, and I had one that wasn't hardened, and of course all that work for that cutter just went to hell. So now I just bake on the boric acid, and I mean, you know, they come out nice. I like it. It's fine with me. They're hard, that's for sure. And as soon as I finish tempering this, I'll go back down and I'll sharpen it again, the same way I did before I hardened it. So we'll just see how long this takes. This is probably going to take a while. A 1032 screw takes about 4 minutes, so I'm thinking this is going to probably take about 10 minutes. And I don't know, maybe I'll come up with a better way of doing this. But for right now, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm going to be doing it. So I'll come back to you in a couple. That's good. Alright, there's the finished gear cutter. And I just used it to cut a gear just for the heck of it. It cleans it up really nice when you cut your first gear with it. And so there you go. I cut an aluminum gear real quick with it. Alright, so the next video I just want to get into a little bit more about the button cutter and the button tool that I used. And it's kind of a it deserves a video all of its own. It's a little bit difficult to work with at first. But anyway, I hope I'll see you next time, and we'll be discussing the button tool.